Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So, this episode's gonna have some spoilers ahead because it's a breakdown episode. So, I hope you knew that. No? Okay, well, there you go. So, you should leave and watch it, pretty please. Otherwise, we're just gonna go ahead and do the thing. So, let's start talking about this episode. First things first, I just gotta say, this episode took me quite a while to make. Even though sure it was only uploaded 12 days after the other one, I worked on this one pretty much every day after the day it came out. After the day it came out, and had to do character assets, a couple of object assets, even though I don't really make objects typically. So yeah, I spent a lot of time actually developing stuff and even watching a YouTube video tutorial because I'm not good at this type of thing. But that's what learning is for, right? Right. So yeah, it's cool. So and compared to my other videos of the breakdowns, this is actually is a bit more of like an outline script to talk about more specific things. So I don't hopefully ramble on quite as much, though I'll probably still expect that here and there. So yeah, cool. So let's first talk about the origin of this episode, the interrogation episode, because this episode was made with the idea in mind of bringing up the Nightclaw and bringing up the whole human faction a bit, because it was like because originally I had it where John was able to be one of the only humans. That's why he was quote unquote the last hope. But then who were the last hope for a different reason? Uh, if I wanted like humans to still survive, because only after a month of war, I doubt all humans would be dead, and it wouldn't really make sense. Humans are pretty determined and have some very interesting technology. So yeah. Anyway, so the interrogation episode pretty much had basically introduced the Nightclaw because I wanted Lily to get a bit more goals and seem like she had a team thing in mind, and partially recontextualizes episode 4 a little bit in the sense that she stumbled upon them as to search for more survivors, but she didn't get to tell them because all the chaos that was happening. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So but because of the whole like this episode being the Nightclaw, and that required me to make multiple new characters. So pretty much I had to ask for a little bit of help. So if you saw a description of the video, you might have seen like in the credits list on the very top was a person. That would be my girlfriend Carrie. She'd helped me out with giving me a second pair of eyes and helped me a little bit with dialogue for the two specific characters she made, which was Justice and Claire. If that's how you pronounce their names, hopefully she'll get mad at me, but you know, it is what it is. So, and just personality and backstory and stuff. Since she's a pretty creative person, so yeah, she helped me out. She'll probably make more characters in the future, and hey, she might even actually make the designs for new characters. Maybe. We'll see if she does. So that was pretty cool. Pretty much asked her right after like the interrogation episode, probably the day after, or the same day I think I started working on it. Yeah, I was like, hey, can you help me with this thing? I think you'll be interested in what I've been doing here. And yeah, she was totally down for it. So episode 10. So the original like intent, as I mentioned, was the Nightclaw. However, as I was kind of like thinking about what I wanted for over the episode, eventually the idea of sworns coming in was a big thing because I didn't really focus much at all of the sworns, even though they're supposedly the ones running more of an amok than the humans are. So I kind of wanted to introduce them a bit in the episode, including like a stronger variant of the sworns, as we'll talk a little more about as we look into it. So there are four segments for this episode that I pretty much when I made the overview of it, which is John and Dan talking, having their like a whole training thing, and then the actual sworn attack, and then the actual the part where they meet the Nightclaw, and then the scavenging, which left off a bit of a cliffhanger about the meeting the mayor of Eastfield, which is where they're heading to. So that's gonna be a neat. Well, I'm not gonna be making that episode for a while because I got other things going on in my life. So I will work on that as soon as I can. So let's actually first scroll in here to talk about the characters. So I actually had them like when it comes to like the camera stuff. There's this like a black rectangle, which is what's inside of it is like what's in like the frame. So actually, I had these characters planted here and these characters all planted here, like since first frame as part of like the setup, so I didn't have to like make them in later. And also originally there was this bald spot on Claire's character, and I just could not fix it for some time. I got it fixed before like the frame they're supposed to be introduced in, and that was a pretty funny situation. Claire's also one of the two characters Carrie made. She didn't like actually create the assets for though, because I didn't know how that would work, or I never asked her to. I only recently figured out you can like send files, so I want to see you can actually send files of like stick figures. So I was so we'll see how that goes. Then you got Justice, her other character. That's this one. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So weapons. So animating all of the four weapons was interesting. So Justice was actually the easiest, right? So essentially, his weapon is connected to his hand. So when I were to move his hand, it's moving with it. Pretty much, I just stuck this like a trapezoid shape, put 5 holes in it, and there you go. You got another weapon that took too hard to make, which is Victor's spear. And the only thing is like walking with it, having this character walk and like hold the weapon. I want to like simulate it kind of being like similar to how like a SWAT team member has those like big like I think the logs or something they hit like the doors with. You know what I'm talking about? And then finally we have Arnold, who has this mace that took longer. Well, second to last, which took some time to make, getting like the trapezoid to go exactly where I wanted it to. Because it's a trapezoid. I just abused trapezoids, I swear, for some of these. And the whole mace thing itself is I think it was like a polygon shape with like a gradient, which I'll also talk about a bit later in the video about gradients, because that's a tool I've definitely used a lot of, because it's easy to use and it helps with more detail for stuff. Then you got Claire's bow, which actually took the longest because I had to make the bow and the arrows for her. And honestly, this thing doesn't look the prettiest. And also, there's no like turning thing, because I had to get rid of that, right? Because it was right on top of the other thing. So what I have to do actually is on this left screen there's this rotate stick figure, and I was able to do that. I'm so glad that's there. I didn't really notice it much before that, so. The hair was interesting. A lot of strands. Also, the mask was something Carrie particularly wanted. And the mask was also just a whole issue. So that took some time developing. I wanted 2 eyes because I thought it would look good. She wanted one eye. She was definitely pretty right about that. I was like, come on, the one eye ain't gonna work. That make no sense. But then stick figure, yeah, that makes sense. I'm an idiot. So yeah, my bad. We all make mistakes, I'm alright. So, then you got the hat, which took some time. This is I just abused the shape right here. I forgot which one that was. I think it was very nice circle, small circle top. And yeah. Shoes was an interesting one. These were the first pair of shoes I made. That is a trapezoid on the left, and then just like a square going up. But I believe I had to like do it in like a strange way where I couldn't just attach it from the foot. I think I had to do it from the leg, because when I moved the leg or foot, it just kind of didn't move with it properly. Something like that. Finally, this guy got them sharp boots, them triangles. So, yeah. And the hair, I followed a video and I started just tracing best I could. And there's a very slight difference between the two hair. So, yeah. Alright. And then, while we're talking about character designs, these guys were easy. They were just recolored shirts of Sworns. And then I made a little stature. I made this like red design thing, but I can't move the top of this character, because otherwise like because there's actually two stripes. It's like two triangles, but like it's like, so if you can like imagine, there's like a top left triangle and then like a bottom right triangle that are connected to make it look like one like cool like line. At least to me it's cool. And yeah, power gradient on the legs to give like that extra color right there, and then a hat with just using spikes. Anyway, we spent quite some time just talking about character designs, but yeah, since this video is longer, a lot of stuff in it, there's some stuff to talk about. There is more stuff I could probably go into more detail in terms of designs, but I'm just gonna, at that point, I'm just kind of leave it. I should mention one more thing, is that Zane, this character, is just a little bit larger than the others, and he has a darker blue pigment, but you probably noticed both of those things. So, but those are two ways I want to distinguish him from being like a slightly different, like a stronger Sworn. So, let's actually start looking at the episode pieces. So up here, I'm gonna start using this text field tool called Vertica as the narration text to make it look different. The only complaint of this app that I can think of is that I wish there was more text fields in this, so I could do a bit more like differences. If I had like enough, I'd actually do different ones for different characters maybe, which should be cool, but nah. Maybe one day. But for now, it's good. It has some stuff at least. So, this cough sound effect is a sound effect that's not actually in the regular imports when you click on the frame. In this case, clicking number 4 frame. Well, you can search like a heavy, but in the heavy coughing thing itself, like I have in my thing, but unless you have downloaded this same MP3 file, you won't have it. I use this thing called a Pixabay. I think that's how you pronounce it. Pixabay, right? Maybe I'll leave a link in the description if I remember. But you might not see it. So, or maybe it doesn't have a link, right? Some things are like that. Anyways, it's this thing I use that helped me use sounds. Like I download sounds, and what I like about it a lot is it's easy, it's simple, and you don't even have to like give credit to every person who used the sound. and because of me being lazy, I'd rather not list the 10 plus sounds for each episode. I'd rather not. That'll take me a bit. I mean, I could, but that's just more stuff in the description, so yeah. It's pretty cool. So, in this conversation, I want to bring up the fact that one thing they mention is Carl, which has been a character I wish I had got to do more with before his whole getting taken thing. I'm glad I got to do something in the Awakened episode with him, but which sets up a bit for episode 1, but I'm not particularly happy with episode 1. You know, being that was the first animation I made, that kind of makes sense. Getting back to this, Carl essentially was talking about him. I was actually either doing one or two things I wanted for his like whole character, in the sense that was basically he was either gonna be like put in a prison cell and a clone was made of him, or I was thinking like this guy was actually like Carl, but like a robot clip or some kind of thing was on his neck or something like that, where he's being controlled. I didn't have that firmly in place until literally writing this episode. Like in the interrogation episode, I even thought about a whole like breakout prison scene type of thing to happen, where Carl would break out Lily, and like this whole prison thing happens with the robots. Eventually, I dropped that idea. Maybe I'll revisit a prison break idea if something like that were to occur. However, it's not in my foreseeable plan right now. Plan? What plan? Anyway. So. Alright, so. Next point I want to talk about. Oh wait, I should mention I ended up deciding that's gonna be like the clip, like it's like actually Carl. But I think the dialogue in this episode, if you've seen it, you would know that. So, wasn't necessary for me to point out, but I like to point out the obvious. Anyways, these things as recent as the interrogation episode, I keep going back to that one for some reason. The references are just relevant, I guess. And I'm starting to use these like little lines to indicate who is talking. Just because it may not be obvious with every character. For whatever reason, I'm doing this going forward for every episode. So in case any situations like that anyway, I would just like these there to make it easy. Though for people to see, then I think it just looks just very slightly better. I saw in like a comic thing once. So that's kind of why I was like, oh. Comic style. Not exactly stick figures, but similar. So it makes sense. Oh, oops. Didn't mean to grab that door. Alright. So basically I just took like a stick figure, made it the size I needed to make it like skinny, and then I used the blur effect. So yeah, that's how you do that. One other thing, since oh man, I gotta make sure I get this video done for my thing dies on my speed run. So when I do these conversations, I used to just have like the text go back and forth, like this character saying this character saying that. I don't have to like delete the text thing and add another one. So I gave myself extra steps by deleting them and making new ones, because I didn't want, because the way it looked, to me it looked better to have like new text boxes pop up instead of just the text boxes striking around the conversation. And I bet it looked even like weirder in this episode because of all the new characters. So, and then between that and the red line, it does take a bit longer to make conversations now. And however, there is this tip. So if you're doing a similar thing like me, what you could do is you could use this top right, middle button with the 2 pages are on the top right. Not the one with the plus sign. And then you pretty much like do that top right middle button. Yes, I know. And then you could click, and then like paste it into like in the the to like, well, you click on like the last frame, then you click the plus this button right here. I don't know if you could see like the button being pressed, but hopefully that helps. And then there, you can kind of just do that so that you don't have to remake those, don't have to do the blur effect every time, or whatever you're gonna do. So there you go, a little factoid for you. So fun fact, I wasn't even like, while the Nightclaw kind of been a thing I wanted to plan for this episode, while like in like development in terms of like making an overview and thinking about what I want for this episode to be about before making it, planning ahead, the Sworns were something that came out like as a later thought. It was originally gonna be them meeting each other, and then like a scavenger scene, but I want it to be like cooler, and I want to like bring Sworns as like more of an antagonist. Hopefully I didn't say that twice. I've definitely done multiple takes of this video already. As you can imagine how bad I am with speaking on scripts. Especially ones that are very loose like this. So, yeah. They kind of became a thing. Want to make them more relevant. So, yeah, there you go. We'll talk a bit more about them, of course, as the episode goes on. So let's skip ahead a few more scenes. Okay, the chasing thing, right? So interesting edit piece here. I had to set this up way ahead of time, but this like the black frame that's behind this. Let me push this forward. Pretty much I made myself because originally there's like not something behind the door, so that happened. I'm glad this snippet thing was the thing I could do with the door though, because like I was able to make it to where the door opens and you go, and it doesn't look completely right, but yeah, it's the best I could do for now at least. So that's kind of why it doesn't look very good. Alright, enough about the technical edits for now. Let's talk a little bit about the battle. The 2 battles. So essentially, what's funny is even though like this battle, like the Nightclaw, and this like Sworn Soldiers was pretty short, only about like I think 8 seconds when it came to the actual time, roughly. It's like how do I explain it? Oh, explaining it's easy. It was essentially triple the amount of time it took for this versus the second fight that happens like very soon after. So because of all like the characters, because there was 8 Sworns and the 4 Nightclaw members, and so essentially it was 12 total entered characters. And I was, using the weapons as well, so I need to move the weapons and the characters. All except for Justice, because his hands... Essentially, if he was a hand-to-hand combatist with just hands and no brass knuckles, pretty much would have been the same fighting style. And, yeah, I just took a lot of time, a lot of things. Weapon smashing, like, for example, doing like the effects for this battle took time as well. Hard to make this head into a like half circle. Which I just tried to do by just clicking on the head in the stick nodes like editing thing, stick nodes maker thing, and it didn't. The head was kind of like this direction up, I believe. So it was like, oh no. And these two things were like blood, and then this thing is a gradient, which should probably bring up since I've been mentioning it the whole time. Whoops. So it's in segment tools, and essentially this is the gradient color, and you can like either reverse or unreverse the gradient depending on what you want. This is the regular gradient. Wait. I'm not sure why it's not showing like that. Oh, now it does. So so this is the reverse gradient. So that's pretty much how I did like the injuries that weren't the head splat. It was actually pretty easy, but it looks like injuries. Also, here's a little small detail. So in the so he had a white spear until like he stabbed the first swarm, which then in the chest, I believe, and yeah, the chest, and it's slightly green. You can see it in the animation if you like look closely, like using the gradient, right? However, in the second stab where he gets like the headshot, I just changed it to segment color green. So small detail, but it wasn't very hard to do. So then you got this scene, sworn and stuff. It's pretty neat. Oh, actually, I should mention this. Speaking of the Nightclaw, I actually had a different alternate name instead of like the Nightclaw. I was actually thinking of Battle Skulls, but I felt like that was something that's probably already used a lot more, and also like it just sounded a little bit more edgier than it felt like it needed to be. So yeah. I also mentioned something else that I used a lot this episode as like a tip for if you were to animate something like this. So, pretty much, so if you have like a position of characters where like you don't want something, let's say behind something, you want something in front of the arrows but not the aliens or whatever in this case, where you want the weapon to be in a certain... Well, yeah, that's the pushback effect. It's, you click on the character, and then it's really close to the top. Also, this is also where the flip thing is, so... Yeah. Alright. This fight was 12 seconds. I also used an interesting effect because it was actually a little fast. Wait, I swear I used an effect here. Where was it? Slow motion twinning. Now, this if you've in like various in like smaller numbers is used for making scenes faster. However, I found that if you put more than like I used like 8 motion twinning, so the max you can do. I put 12, then actually go slightly slower. The fight was originally gonna be even faster, so I slowed it down just a little bit. Also, because of that, this overall fight was about 12 seconds and was actually easier to animate because there was less combatants. There was Zane and then the 4. There was 5 characters versus like 12. So yeah. And this is the going back here. There's the 3 sets I use. Going to this one. More lore for Zane, even though it was a character I made up for the episode to be like a one-shot dead person. And there's this this guy Deadass really just like farted, like, and then kind of noticed him, like. It's such like a childish thing to do for my usually one joke I try to do an episode. Well, okay, it's not something I actively do, but I tend to notice that I do make jokes, usually with sound effects. So for this episode, it just so happened that the joke I wanted to do was just so stupid. I hope someone at least appreciated that. I had another joke I wanted to do with the cookies later, but I decided I'll use it for something else. So, originally, John and Dan were actually going to be guests with the Nightclaw instead of like prisoners as described. So like, what happened was I realized that since the Sworns were like were the humans of the enemy. Brain deleted. No brain. So since the Sworns and humans are like enemies, so I realized it would not make sense for them to want to like bring this guy Dan back as an ally and John could be the Sky Sworn. So it made more sense to interrogate them, but not kill them because besides plot armor, of course, you gotta. They weren't actively attacking or anything. They came quietly. So yeah, so many things can change, even in the middle of actually animating the episode. Anyways, then cutting out to these characters, introducing themselves, and they do this walking, which definitely took longer than it should. It's short, but it took me some time walking because there's so many characters to walk. There was, let's see, 6 total characters just walking and having to move their arms a little bit so they didn't look as static here and there. And there's this scene where Mom Man goes, "Oh, drugs," which I guess in itself is probably maybe like a funny joke bit, but that's just part of this character's personality. And then cookies, and for the scavenger segment of the episode, I wanted to get like items for it. I was gonna get more, but this town was smaller, and because I wanted to use this town specifically since it matched well with the ruins of the other one, there wasn't a lot of places to put items in unless I did another background. However, this episode was already getting like long, and so I didn't want to put any more else in it. So I just also I wanted to wrap it up by the end, so. So yeah, there goes the episode. That's everything you need to know about this episode. Oh my gosh, it's been 34 minutes. Well, it was slightly more concise compared to other episodes since there's, 8 minutes of content versus certain other things where I don't think it was 8 minutes. Plus, there's all the other characters to talk about. Man, I apologize. This took longer. So I'll wrap this up here. So thank you for this breakdown episode. Hope you enjoyed, and see you for the next video. Peace.